The sun rose over Pompeii, casting a golden hue across the bustling streets, illuminating the vibrant mosaics and frescoes that adorned the houses. The air was filled with the sounds of merchants setting up their stalls, the calls of children playing, and the distant laughter of families preparing for the day. It was a day like any other in this thriving Roman city, yet there was an undercurrent of unease that even the warm rays of sunlight could not dispel. In a modest home on the edge of the Forum lived young Aurelia, the Firekeeper of her family. At just 16 years old, she had already assumed the responsibilities that came with the role, learned from her father, a respected craftsman known for his intricate metalwork. Every morning, she would rise before dawn to tend to the small fire that heated their home, nurturing it with the same care she would give to a delicate plant. To Aurelia, the flames were more than just a source of warmth. They were a symbol of life, connection, and her family's heritage. Chapter 2. A day like any other. Aurelia moved gracefully around the kitchen, her fingers deftly stirring a pot of porridge as the fire crackled softly. The comforting scent of wood smoke mingled with the aroma of breakfast, creating an atmosphere of familiarity and safety. She could hear her younger brother, Lucius, playing outside, his laughter ringing through the open window. "Morning, Aurelia," called a neighbor, a jovial baker named Marcus. His shop was already alive with the scent of fresh bread, drawing customers like a siren's call. "Are you going to help your father today? The new orders are coming in, and I could use an extra pair of hands." "I will, after breakfast," Aurelia replied with a smile, her heart warmed by the camaraderie of her neighbors. As she ate, she discussed the day's plans with her father, who shared stories of his trade, the new techniques he hoped to try, and the upcoming festival that would bring the city together. Each tale added to her excitement, painting a picture of their shared future filled with hope and ambition. Yet, amidst the laughter and warmth, Aurelia sensed a strange stillness outside. The usual buzz of activity seemed muted, and an inexplicable tension hung in the air. The streets were filled with merchants and townsfolk, but there was an urgency in their movements that caught her attention. She glanced at her father, who had paused mid-sentence, his brow furrowed with concern. Chapter 3. Rumblings of change. "Have you heard the rumors, father?" Aurelia asked, concern creeping into her voice. "They say Mount Vesuvius is restless." Her father nodded gravely. "Yes, I have heard. The earth has been trembling more frequently of late. We must keep an eye on it." The conversation turned to the signs of nature, and Aurelia listened intently as her father described the tales he had heard from the elders, stories of the mountain's past eruptions, its fury and destruction. The thought of such power made her heart race, but her youthful bravado urged her to dismiss her fears. Later that day, as she helped her father in the workshop, the ground began to shake. It started as a gentle tremor, but within moments it escalated into a violent roar that shook the very foundation of their home. The walls trembled, and dust fell from the rafters. Aurelia's heart raced as she exchanged a terrified glance with her father. "It's the volcano," he shouted over the cacophony, fear etched into his features. "We must leave, Aurelia. Now." Chapter 4. The eruption. In an instant, the vibrant life of Pompeii transformed into chaos. Aurelia grabbed her brother's hand, pulling him toward the door as they navigated the tumultuous streets. The once bustling marketplace was now a scene of panic. Merchants abandoned their wares, and families rushed to escape the impending disaster. The ground shook violently beneath them as they dashed through the streets. Aurelia's heart pounded in her chest, each beat echoing the urgency of their flight. Ash began to rain down from the sky, thickening the air, and the acrid scent of sulfur filled her nostrils. The once vibrant colors of Pompeii faded to gray as the darkness descended. "Stay close to me," Aurelia shouted to Lucius, her voice barely audible over the chaos. She squeezed his hand tightly, her grip a lifeline amidst the confusion. Chapter 5. The escape. As they fled, Aurelia's mind raced with thoughts of her family. Where was her mother? Had she made it out of the house? They dodged falling debris and navigated through the streets, desperately searching for a way to safety. The panic around them intensified. People screamed, their faces pale with fear, their eyes wide with terror. Aurelia led Lucius through the narrow alleyways, her instincts guiding him away from the main thoroughfares. They encountered friends and neighbors along the way, some helping others, while others were frozen in fear. Aurelia felt a surge of determination. They couldn't stop. They had to keep moving. Look, Lucius pointed towards a small group of people gathered around a sturdy stone building. They're going inside. Without hesitation, Aurelia pulled her brother toward the building, hoping it would provide the shelter they needed. As they reached the door, she turned back, scanning the chaotic scene for any sign of her parents. Chapter 6. Seeking shelter inside the building, a few families had already taken refuge, huddled together in fear. Aurelia quickly assessed the situation, her heart sinking as she realized her family was not among them. She felt a pang of despair, but she pushed it down, focusing on keeping Lucius safe. "We'll stay here until it's safe to go out again," she told her brother, forcing a calmness into her voice. "We'll find mother and father." As the minutes turned into hours, the world outside continued to erupt with chaos. Aurelia could hear the distant roars of the mountain and the sounds of destruction echoing through the streets. Her heart ached with worry for her family, but she kept her focus on Lucius, comforting him with stories of their home and the celebrations that would come after the disaster. Chapter 7. Aftermath of the eruption. When the tremors finally ceased, the ash settled over Pompeii like a heavy blanket, muffling the world outside. It was a surreal scene as Aurelia and the other survivors stepped outside, taking in the devastation around them. Buildings were reduced to rubble, streets were buried under layers of ash, and the vibrant life of Pompeii was extinguished. Aurelia's heart sank further as she searched for her family. Each face she encountered was a mixture of despair and determination, yet she held on to hope that her parents were still alive. She felt the weight of responsibility on her shoulders, the need to lead her brother through this nightmare. Chapter 8. Rebuilding lives. In the days that followed, the people of Pompeii began to come together, banding together to support one another. The initial shock gave way to resilience, as families worked to clear the debris and locate their loved ones. Aurelia became a beacon of hope for those around her, organizing efforts to search for survivors and distribute food and water. Her leadership did not go unnoticed. Neighbors and friends rallied around her, inspired by her bravery and determination. They formed small groups to navigate the wreckage of their homes and assist those in need, embodying the spirit of the community. As they worked, Aurelia's thoughts remained on her parents. Days turned into weeks, and still, there was no sign of them. Yet, she continued to push forward, channeling her grief into action for Lucius and the others. Chapter 9. Legacy of Pompeii. The eruption of Mount Vesuvius had left an indelible mark on Pompeii, but it had also ignited a flame of resilience among its people. Stories of bravery and loss circulated as survivors recounted their experiences. Aurelia found herself sharing her family's tale with others, honoring her parents by keeping their memory alive. Over time, the city began to rebuild. Though it would never be the same, there was a renewed sense of purpose and community. Aurelia and Lucius, now more than just siblings, became symbols of hope and strength. As the years passed, Aurelia took on a role as a mentor for younger generations, teaching them about the importance of fire, not just as a destructive force but as a source of warmth and life. She instilled in him the lessons she had learned during the eruption, the value of family, community, and the spirit of survival. Chapter 10. Conclusion. The story of Aurelia, the Firekeeper of Pompeii, became a legend passed down through generations. It served as a reminder of the power of nature, the strength of the human spirit, and the importance of community in the face of adversity. Aurelia's legacy lived on, inspiring countless others to embrace their inner fire, to protect and nurture their loved ones, and to stand strong against the chaos of the world.